Hello and welcome to episode 280 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We had another absolute crazy week, elimination week in week 14. Some of you guys got Puka, some of you guys got Josh Allen, and you have no chance, maybe even Sam Darnold. We're here to kind of show some of you guys that didn't make the playoffs what the 2025 class is and some ways to make some moves, because I've been making tons of trades. This past week, I made more trades than I did the entire month before that. I'm excited to chop it up. I know Snoog's excited to talk running backs. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, Dad. I mean, last year we told you for weeks on end, it's the wide receiver and quarterback class and Brock Bowers. So load up on those positions.
Mm-hmm.
Get your other things figured out, and then prepare for 2025 running backs. And we're finally here. It's time. So if you're in one of those rebuilds where you have Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, and all these stacked young wideouts and quarterbacks, but you have zero running back depth, and you want to put all the chips in next year, this upcoming year, and it's time you hit that 1 year rebuild, that 1 year punt that we talk about, and now it's like, okay, let me go get someone that can take me over the top. Well, if you have a ton of draft capital, you can do two things. You can draft a stacked running back class. You can take Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Ashton Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Nick Singleton, Amari Hampton, one of those guys. Or you could convert those into Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara's, go that route. Or you could even go hero RBs with the Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson. So you have a ton of things to do here. We're going to talk about this 2025 rookie class and kind of give you some names to look out for and prepare for next year.
Snoog, I'm super excited. Going to the next round of Scott Fish Bowl, baby.
Yeah.
Going to the quarterfinals. You know, Puka Nacua kind of carried me there. I'm super excited for that. Before we we have a lot of new listeners. We have a lot of guys that want to transition into Dynasty. And, you know, Snoog, you and I have very good track success. Right now, it looks like I'm going to miss the playoffs in one league. And three are rebuilds. So that's there. But one thing that, you know, it always gets to this time of year, and the playoff teams are not what I'm focused on. It's that one that I missed, you know, and I think back to the movie Wolf of Wall Street, where it's like, I never ask my clients to judge me on my winners, but I want them to judge me on my losers because I have so few. I think this year, the last 2 years, I didn't miss the playoffs on a single team. I had a perfect, like last year was wild. I had 18 and 15 of them were top three. 3 of them were bottom 3. This year, I have 2 in the middle that are going to be fringe playoffs, which is what I really try to stay away from. We really talk about top 3, bottom 3. We really try to get that. Sometimes they're luck. I mean, honestly, the one that I'm in question tonight, guy didn't set his lineup against the opponent that is tied with me for the last playoff spot, and I'm second in the league in points. I have 10 points less than the number one guy, and sometimes it comes down to luck, honestly. But once you get into the playoffs, we put you there. At Smash Accept, we are going to give you, it's such an easy, cyclical game of right now is the time to sell your vets because you're never going to get more for them. I have sold so many vets this past week. I sold Tyreek Hill in a pair of seconds for AJ Brown. I sold Adam Thielen, and it was like a bunch of different moves. I sold Adam Thielen and Ramondre Stevenson for a pair of seconds. And this is the time where you're like, those guys you couldn't get rid of all year, now you can get a second for DeAndre Hopkins because that guy wants those points. Now you can get a second for one of those players where, you know, you're like, oh man, this guy's been sitting on my roster forever. And as soon as they're out of the playoffs, Snoog, that's become cheaper than ever. You know, so that's why I'm really excited to just really start diving into what we do, you know, how we do things. All of our leagues that you and I run, it's no trade deadlines because that makes it so much more fun because now, you know, we're making deals. And the guys that come to me and say, Dad, why do you not have trade deadlines? If you don't trust the 11 other guys in your league, blow it up. There's no point in having it. You know, you're here to have fun with 11 other guys, enjoy what you're doing, make some trades. And Snoog, you and I have nailed the trades over the last year. We have nailed putting ourselves into position. And now it's time to nail these 2025 firsts. And Snoog, people aren't valuing them properly yet. Like I gave up, who did I give up the other day? I gave up Zay Flowers for what looks like the 104 because that guy wants him for a playoff run. I gave up Mike Evans for what looks like 108. And right now is that last time, just like we talk about veterans, this being the last time that you can sell veterans for high, this is the last time you can buy rookie picks because as soon as week 17 is over, those sons of bitches are going to skyrocket. Like those things are going to be worth crazy money.
Yeah, we talked about that before we started the show today. It's like once that week 17 Monday or whenever, I think it's going to be that Monday night after that game. It's going to be insane in a lot of leagues. In most leagues, mine especially, like if there is a trade deadline or some type of guidelines around a trade deadline, as soon as that week hits, everything's open. So it's like Black Friday shopping. It's literally like boom, 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 like trades.
It's
And that's your time. We say that's your time. You sell vets now, you buy them then, because no one wants DeAndre Hopkins in the end of 2024 season when it's going to be like everyone's like, get this guy off my team now.
Right.
And then when the season's coming up, everyone's going to want him again. And then when playoffs come up, everyone's going to want it. That's how it works. And
it's cyclical. It just keeps going in a cycle.
It really doesn't. Yeah. And it really doesn't vary league to league. It's honestly just the dynasty theory for everybody. Like everybody wants to contend when they don't, when the season's starting, everybody thinks they're a contender, right? There's usually one or two that are like, no, I'm full rebuild. Everybody else thinks they're a contender. When the playoffs roll around, there's only 6 to 7 contenders.
Correct.
When the playoffs end, usually everybody thinks they're a contender. Even the rebuilders are like, I'm going to turn my rebuild into a contender this year. That's your time. That's your time to capitalize. That's your time. You might have a window where you can get some decent value seconds for guys like Hopkins, Keenan Allen still.
Yeah.
Like 205, 207s. But
they're going to disappear.
It's gonna get crazy. We'll put together shows and lists of guys to buy and who to target and who to sell. But
exactly, if you guys are redraft guys, jump into Dynasty. No better place to talk Dynasty in a format where you're not going to get judged, where you're going to see values, where you're going to see trends, where we're going to put you ahead than the Smash Accept Patreon. You know, if you guys join, that's our Discord right now, $5 a month. It might go up next year, but Smash Accept Patreon is the place to go. That's patreon.com/Smash Accept. You got Snoog's content, my content. We're going to talk. We're already talking 25 rookies, and that's what we're going to jump into right now. So, Snoog, right now, I value 2 players at the running back position over this guy. That might change soon. And the only reason I value Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson over Ashton Junty is because they're probably in the playoffs. If you're not a playoff team, like the allure of the 101 is always worth so much more. If he lands in the right spot, he is that next guy that's truly generational talent. He's someone that, you know, you are going to build around this type of running back. This is someone that's going to take you to that next level. So I was looking at this today. This blows my mind. 2,228 rushing yards, right? That's insane. However, 1,695 rushing yards after contact. The RB2 in this class, Omarion Hampton, 1,660 total, not after contact, total. He has more yards after contact than the RB2. And Omarion Hampton had a phenomenal year. 1,660 rushing yards. That's unbelievable. But Ashton Junty has just been unbelievable. He's been just another level. 5'9", 215 pounds. So he's in that weight that we want him to be. He's projected at running potentially a 4.42. Again, checks that box. Everything that you look about this guy, it is someone that just checks every single box. Some people criticize he might not be the best receiving back. He is a very capable receiving back. You know, he's not going to.
He is a ridiculously good receiving back. They just didn't use him this year in it.
Yeah.
Look at his freshman and sophomore season, and you'll be like, holy crap.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean,
actually.
It's 821 rushing yards, 157 receiving as a freshman, and then his sophomore year was really good. 1,347 rushing, 569 receiving yards. But a lot of people look at the stats this year. They didn't need him to be a receiving back. Like he was not special in that sense. But this is someone that's going to be Snoog, in my opinion, day one is in a tier 1. You know, like just where, like we said, Bijan day 1 was going to be tier 1. It took us a little bit of time to go ahead and add Jahmyr Gibbs into that, add Breece Hall. But this is like Bijan Robinson. This is like Zeke back in the day. Day 1, tier 1, unless we get some absolutely just horrific landing spot. I don't think we're going to see that. He's going to be a round 1 running back. Sell me on why he is, because most people say, Dad, running backs aren't worth the 101. Ashton Jeanty absolutely is.
Let me tell you why. Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, both were the 101 in their classes, and look what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Look where they were valued. Both fringe one startup assets. Bijan is a startup one asset. Jahmyr Gibbs was another one that was a top 6 pick in his that I could have been. In some leagues, I took him 103. I didn't care. I wanted him. He got the draft capital that was generational. I viewed him as I had him and Bijan Robinson in the same tier, and nobody liked that. That's how high I was on Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm as high on Ashton Jeanty as I was on both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I tweeted that this morning. Ashton Jeanty is in that CMC mold. Elite is a pure runner. Elite is a receiving back. It's very rare you see that. Jahmyr Gibbs, elite is a pure runner. Elite is a receiving back. Bijan, Breece, same deal. Those 4 tiered up. I would take Ashton Jeanty over Devin A-Chain today.
Mm-hmm.
Better player. Gonna land with first round draft capital. Probably gonna land in not a better situation, but a better volume spot. And yeah, like you said, people don't realize how good of a receiving back he is, because this year it was just, we want to just pound the rock and get you the ball as much as we can. And that was the easiest way to do so. But if you look at last year and the year before and you compare on Cantus to Canton, I use their metric plot tools. Shout out to them. They have a great website over there. I think it's like $1 a month to get access to some of their tools to use for like prospect evaluations. I compared Christian McCaffrey, Rashad White, Jahmyr Gibbs, Ashton Jeanty. Those are 4 of the best receiving back prospects that we've had in a decent amount of time. Just coming out of college, just raw receiving back production. And Jeanty is blowing them out the waters in that year 2 production that he had. He is a damn good receiving back. He looks very natural catching the ball. He's the 101. It's not close.
Yeah.
People will try to be different on Twitter and say he's not the best running back in this class. He's not that. Anything can happen. Like if you look at it, like Bijan was like the clear one, and then like Gibbs and A-Chain got wicked close. Some people think they passed. Like it can change. Like all it takes is Caleb Johnson to go to Dallas, right? And Jeanty goes to the Patriots, and it's like now it's close. Like
I would argue, close, but I think both those organizations are going opposite direction. But wherever Jeanty goes, Snook, in the last 5 to 10 years, as long as I've been doing this, one of the most elite contact balances I've ever seen, elite vision, and elite like ability to break tackles. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's able to do. I don't just take our word for it. I love NFLDraftBuzz.com. Shout out to Kev Thomas. He wrote this. He said, Jeanty stands out as a transformative talent, the kind that comes along once in a decade. His potential is immediately to step in as a focal point in an NFL offense. Teams picking in the top 5 will be hard pressed to pass on a Jeanty caliber player.
I agree.
This is like Bijan Robinson. You're going to see him go top 10. You're going to see him go. So please, not the Giants. They already did this to Saquon, but you're going to see him go top 10. He is right now. And the biggest thing, Snoop put out his rankings. I put out my combined rankings of the 2024 class and 25. He's in a tier all by himself. He is an absolute tier all by himself. And
I have a team that I think would take him. The Chicago Bears are going to be the team that do it.
Okay.
He's going to go top 10, right? And the Bears are probably going to be in that top 10 range. It's always the team that shouldn't does it, right? Like it's like
yeah, the one you're like, okay,
because
this doesn't make a lot of sense.
The Bears are gonna look at it like a luxury pick, even though they shouldn't, but because they have all their wideouts, right? They have a quarterback. They bought into Swift, but he's Jeanty's like Swift, like but the Hulk version. Like he's just a million times better version of Swift. And I think like the way you look at it is like the team, it's going to be the team in the top 10 that has that luxury pick that doesn't have a Jahmyr Gibbs, a Bijan, and A-Chain. It doesn't matter if they have a Kyron Williams. It doesn't matter if they have a James Cook. Like that's not stopping a team like that from taking an Ashton Jeanty. It never has in the past. Historically, like even like with the Rams, like they put a ton of draft capital in the running backs, and then they still took Todd Gurley in the first round.
What I don't want to see. Really I mean, you have Raiders 1. They're not going to. They're going to go quarterback. Giants 2. Patriots 3. feels a little bit early, but I mean, I think they're more in
Pat,
need of
I think
of
Pats are gonna
O-line
go.
and wide
Yeah,
receiver
they're gonna go wide receiver or tackle.
because
It's gonna be
so
Tet or Will Campbell or one of the.
and that's what a
tackles.
lot of people are saying, you know. And I got Terry Williams asking, is there a scenario where you take Tet over Junty? I think if Tet goes to the Patriots and Junty goes to the Titans at 6, or he goes to, you know, the Browns at 8, or even, I mean, the Bengals are at 10 right now. That'd be wild. But you know,
They
or
would
the
do it. That's a
you know,
team that would take Ashton Junty.
Cowboys at 12 would be. But if
Chase Brown.
exactly, that's another show. We're going to talk about that right now. Talk about that a little bit later. Number 2, and this is not even close either, even in combined 2024 and 2025 classes, Caleb Johnson. You know, a lot of people had him outside that top 5 running back in the class, but Snoog, he has been amazing this season. He has been someone that, you know, in last year's class, he's the RB1. In many years' classes, he's the RB1. We talked about that with Malik Neighbors versus Marvin Harrison last year. You're like, don't get me wrong, even Roma Dunze, like these are wide receiver ones in many classes. But this running back class is deep. This running back class is talented. And Caleb Johnson is someone that, if he gets the right landing spot, he also has 3-down skill set that could just absolute. And this tier, I call these guys future RB1s. You know, I have Junty as just generational, can't miss. This next group, 2 through 6, are guys that I think are potential dynasty RB1s. Caleb Johnson is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a guy, I've stamped him as my RB2 in this class for a good amount of time now. I love this player. I love the film.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me of like that Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley type of player on film. Like, and he's an absolute ankle snatcher, force miss tackle machine, projecting at like 6 foot, 220 pounds. He's just a bigger back, powerful guy, excels through contact. One of my favorite things about him, though, is his like natural feel for taking and like attacking the angles of defenders. If you watch him on film, he like weaves through traffic and like outside. Like when he gets the ball outside, he like weaves around defenders. He doesn't like exceed contact or like try to get close and make a miss like a lot of running backs do. Like he like just, it's literally like he's like zigzagging around the field. Like just he'll literally run this way, then run that way, then run. Like it's insane to watch him. But this is a guy, like I said, workhorse size, 1,500 plus rushing yards on the ground, efficient in the ground game, six plus yards per carry, 23 total touchdowns on the year, 20 plus receptions, capable as a receiver. People think that we should be shocked that out of the blue he's this good. Like, as a true freshman, 150 plus carries, 780 rushing yards. He had 6 total touchdowns, efficient runner in the Big Ten. Like, he had a really good freshman year, but no one really noticed it because it was like Iowa, Big Ten. They were never really good. But he's a guy, another one, the whole offense on Iowa this year. They beat Nebraska as a Caleb Johnson. They won a lot of these Big Ten games this year. I think they had 7 wins because of Caleb Johnson. He was their entire offense. That's another thing that I like to look at when I'm evaluating running back prospects is, okay, do they have the high-end skill sets that I like? Do they have the ability to break tackles, force missed tackles, catch the ball, be good in space, be a guy that can touch the ball 15 to 20 times on the ground? Okay, check. Okay, now are they dominating their offense? Like, are they the whole team? When there's 8 guys in the box, are they still performing? Yes, they both are. Ashton Junty, Caleb Johnson. Junty's in his own tier, but Caleb Johnson's in tier 2 for me. And tier 2 for me is between 4 to 5 guys, and I view them as all round 2 talents. And I think Caleb Johnson could be a late first round pick if he crushes the combine and is like a 4.4 runner, like a good athlete, like stands out well, has good size. Like I could see him sneaking into that late first round. Same with Junkins, Travion Henderson, Hampton. Like any of those guys could be like a late first round talent, in my opinion, but they'll probably all slip into that early day 2 range.
When Caleb's got that bowling ball mentality, he is 6 foot 225. Right now, he's projected at run at a 4.5. What I really like is that he's not scheme dependent. I think he can work in his zone. I think he could work, in gap systems. I think he's someone that's just going to be really good. And a lot of people don't pay attention. He had 22 receptions this year. So he not only had 1,500 rushing yards, 23 touchdowns, but he had another 200 on the ground, in the air, and 22 receptions, and not all just dump offs. He had some great looking catches from what I've, started to dive in on the tapes, and I'm big on him right now. if he gets the right landing spot, Snoog, I mean, we talk about the class, it's right now. I think he's probably the 104, 105, but I think there's a real world scenario where Tet goes somewhere we don't like, or Shedeur or Cam Ward are not taken as high as a lot of people anticipate, where he could be the 103. And I think this is the year in one quarterback leagues. Last year kind of was like all quarterbacks, and you're like, oh, this is not it for me. This year, oh damn, if you rebuild it, and that's one thing in the Patreon where everybody in one quarterback leagues, I'm like, void out your running backs. Get the 101, get the 102. Because if you go and you have elite wide receivers and now you add Caleb Johnson and Junty, and maybe Judkins, dude, you're going to absolutely dominate. My best rebuilds were teams where I upgraded the quarterbacks, upgraded the wide receivers, and added Bijan, A-Chain, and Gibbs. And now you're unbeatable. And this is going to be similar with Caleb, Quinshon, Henderson, Hampton, and Junty. And you're going to it's a little bit deeper than that class. That class kind of fell off after 4 or 5. And as much as Zach Charbonnet looks like freaking Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley mix when Kenneth Walker misses.
It's so funny too because he looks so bad outside. Like he doesn't look good.
When there's two of them, it's horrible.
He looks like he's slow, like so slow, but he just gets it done. He reminds me a lot of like James Conner when it was always just like a crusty workhorse running back. But like
3 starts this year, he's inside the top 8 in all 3. Like he's an RB1
if one of them misses a game, the other one's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, so that's been crazy. Number 3, when I did this and I started doing it last week, and I think 3 through 6 are very debatable. So in this particular class, I have it Judkins, Henderson, Hampton. I think all 3 of them are in the same tier. I think all 3 of them are guys that, like you said, could get round 2, will get round 2 draft capital, could get round 1. I don't think all of them will. Maybe one of them do. But I think I have them listed evenly with right now Bucky Irving, not during the process Bucky Irving. And I know, this past week he was a little bit hobbled with the hip and everything like that. But man, Bucky Irving has come on strong where you're looking at these 4 guys, Bucky included, are going to be guys that I think are top 15 running backs. I think the rest of the way you're looking at, let's start with Judkins. Do you have Judkins as your 3 as well?
Yeah, he's 3A for me. I think he's someone that's getting a little bit more flack, but people don't realize like how special him and TreVeyon Henderson are, and they're splitting a backfield.
Mm-hmm.
Just some things that I look for with like Judkins is like other traits still there we saw at Ole Miss, and they are. He's running through people's faces. He's probably one of the most powerful downhill runners in this class, and his ability to make defenders miss and his elusiveness and his like intelligence of the game is incredibly high. He just reminds me of a guy like when there was all those running backs at Georgia, like Nick Chubb and all those guys, or when at Bama when there's like 3 stud running backs in the room, like none of them had like Josh Jacobs is a great Quinshon Judkins comp, and that play style is the same for me. Like that tenacious running style, super elusive. Like Jacobs is a shifty guy, but he's big back, powerful. Like that's Quinshon Judkins to me. Like can catch the ball, 3-down workhorse. That's why he's my RB3, 3A right now, but.
Before he transferred, and sometimes you got to look at what a guy does as a true freshman. He comes in 2022, shatters the Ole Miss record, 1,500, 1,567 rushing yards,
peak,
16 touchdowns, and he was, SEC Freshman of the Year. Then his sophomore year, he follows that up
with Zach Evans there.
Yeah,
and Zach Evans was like #1 recruit in his class. Everyone had all this hype for him. I did too. He came in and literally just wiped the doors with Zach Evans. It was insane.
Sophomore year, you look at him again, then it's 1,158 yards and 15 touchdowns. He is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now he transfers over to Ohio State, and a lot of people, he gets lost in the sauce. I think Henderson and him are both phenomenal running backs. I think both of them, if they're a lot of people look at this as a bad thing. There's less wear and tear on both of these guys. They both were not getting the same amount of not getting the same amount of work that they would have in the past. But he has great burst, great acceleration. He's someone that I think, again, very few weaknesses to his game. He's someone that's going to go. And Snoog, you and I have all these guys as round 1 picks, even in Superflex, because the wide receivers in this class, outside of Tet, fall off pretty good. I think there's going to be some guys that impress at the combine and guys that move their way up. but I think this is just running back loaded for me right now. Is I have two quarterbacks, one wide receiver, maybe two wide receivers, and then just running back central. Where last year we wanted to try to find those running backs, but this time of year last year, we're like, I have none. Like we were debating of having Blake Corum as like 112, and then unfortunately the landing spot, he looked pretty good yesterday in the Bills game, and all those guys, and Trey Benson's looked good in limited amount of time, and Jalen Wright when he gets an opportunity. Those guys are all, I have them considerably further down because in this class, it's just too good to pass up on. That's why a lot of people were saying, well, I prefer Bucky Irving over to say 104 next year. And I'm like, that's just foolish because you're seeing it, but there's so many more, the ceiling of Bucky Irving coming into this year, and it was a great 4-game stretch there. He's been really good all year. The ceiling of Bucky Irving is not the same ceiling of Caleb Johnson. It's not the same ceiling of Quinshon Judkins to me even. So I think I'm there. Let's go from Judkins to say in the same team, TreVeyon Henderson. Before last year, if he came out, he might have been the RB1 of the class. Or he would have been.
He definitely would have been.
And I think we had him projected as the 107 this time of year last year. If he was coming out, he was going to be that guy. Now, again, similar type thing. People are just set because the stats aren't the same. And so many people don't watch the film. So many people don't, read up on places like NFL Draft Buzz or like you said, Campus to Canton. They're not digging deep into it. They're just like, oh man, what the heck? Like he only had X amount of rushing yards this year. But TreVeyon Henderson is a dog as well.
Another one like Quinshon Judkins, their true freshman season was special. And this came in the Big Ten in 2021. I mean, he put up 1,500 total yards, 27 receptions, very capable receiving back, dynamic in space, 15 touchdowns, 19 total touchdowns. I mean, super efficient. He's always been really efficient on the ground game, like 6.8 yards per carry that year, 5+, 7 this year. Mm-hmm. Him and Judkins, I think it was a business move for both of them, if you look at it. And I know it's like, it takes away. The NFL doesn't really just care only about production when they've had the production. At this point now, it's like, okay, are they healthy? Are they fresh? Can they catch the ball? Are they dynamic? Like, can they do all the things? Are they coachable? Like they played at a big Power 4 program. It's a business decision for both of them. That's why they're both still in my top 4 because you got to just ignore the production, follow the tape, follow what the pedigree is that they've had, follow that production as true freshmen. They carried 2 very good teams at the time as true freshmen, him and Judkins. It's literally like lightning in a bottle. It's like lightning and thunder for them. Like Judkins is the Josh Jacobs, that downhill tenacious runner, can catch the ball, powerful guy, elusive. And TreVeyon Henderson's that Kenneth Walker, that explosive, dynamic, going to take 4 jump cuts and house a 90-yard touchdown. But the consistency on the ground game is going to be more with Judkins, and the more home run hitting is going to be with Henderson. But the thing that I like about Henderson's film this year and watching him play at Ohio State was he got better as the take your 4 or 5 yards, drop your shoulder pads, use your lower body strength and push forward and power through contact. And he was a lot better with that. And you can see it on film and through his efficiency metrics, which is really good to see. So I was very impressed with Caleb Johnson, Quinshon Judkins, and TreVeyon Henderson. I was much more impressed with them than Hampton, even though the stats say otherwise.
That's what I was going to say.
We'll talk about Hampton next. And I honestly have Nick Singleton in this tier with them now. So we can talk about him with Hampton.
So Hampton gets that sexy feel because you look at back-to-back years, he's the bell cow.
Beautiful production.
250 plus touches every single year, 1,500 yards in 23, 1,600 yards in 2024, 5.9 yards per carry in both, 15 touchdowns in each. So he's got that dog in him. This year, he went from 29 receptions last year to 38 this year. And this is someone that's possesses 3-down capabilities. This is what you would see from Henderson or from Judkins if they were given that type of role. These guys could carry the ball 250 plus times, catch the ball 30 plus times. Hampton did it. So I think a lot of people have moved him up above those 2 guys. His tape looks phenomenal as well. Like Omarion Hampton, again, last year's class arguably would have been the RB1, if he's coming out right now. So I think this gives you just yet another running back that we're saying is going to come in and make immediate production. A lot of people, Snoog, are going to come at us and say, well, yeah, but, like we always get excited about running backs. these are guys that are going to come right in, right? We didn't have to wait for Bijan Robinson. We didn't have to wait for Devon Achane. We didn't have to wait for Jahmyr Gibbs. Like Gibbs a little bit. They were kind of like easing him in. But these guys all are 6 foot, 220 pounds. Gibbs, they were like, I don't know if he's going to take the beating. All four of these guys so far are in that 6 foot, 219 to 225, which is what you want. And they all run in a 4.4 to 4.5 range. Like none of these guys were starting to pick out warts and say, oh, but he runs a 4.6, but everything else does is nice. Oh yeah, he's really good in between the tackles, but he can't catch passes. All of these guys check the boxes of being RB1s.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what the special part is, right? Is it's going to come down to the draft capital, the landing spot, what the NFL loves. The combine's going to be probably pretty big for their draft capital. But if you look at last year or the year before last year, like you said, Achane, Gibbs, Bijan were right away. Kendre was hurt. Kendre looks great every time he steps on the field. He looked phenomenal yesterday. Like he always looks good. If his injuries weren't a thing, I think he would really be a very good piece alongside Kamara, and he'd be a guy that's like a Charbonnet. If Kamara misses time, then he's an RB1. If someone misses time, then maybe Kendre has some big spike weeks where he scores. Like that's what I love about him. And same with Charbonnet, another guy. Like you don't have to hit a home run on every draft pick you have. Like if you take a guy mid-second, you don't have to hope that he's CMC. Like you can hope that he's a James Conner where it's like he's a backup at first and then he emerges and he starts to perform and he's valuable to your team. Because if you have a stacked team, right, and you're hitting on these second round rookie picks and you have Charbonnet, you have Chase Brown, who basically was nothing his rookie year, the next year or the year after, and then it's all of a sudden they're valued as like low end RB1s. And it's like, take the small wins because they end up being bigger in the end. So that's one thing I want to highlight is it's like, you don't have to just like if you like Caleb Johnson, right? But you like Nick Singleton better, and you can get Nick Singleton 201, and you have to take Caleb Johnson 103. Go with your gut. Trade Johnson, move back and get like a 27 first plus second to move back. Like there's tons of things you can do to insulate, and that's one thing that we always like to help you guys out with on the show. And we'll do some insulated trades with rookie picks when the time comes. We're still far out, but when that time comes, we definitely will.
And that's been our bread and butter. I mean, all year we were saying trade Caleb for Jaden Daniels plus, and we were getting a first on top. Trade Marvin for Malik Neighbors and a late first plus. And now look at they flip flop. Jaden Daniels is worth at least one, if not 1.5 firsts over Caleb. Malik is worth probably a first over Marv. There were some scenarios where we were like, you know what? We're really big on Ladd McConkey. We're really big on Brian Thomas Jr. Trade Marvin Harrison for Brian Thomas Jr. and 2 firsts. Their value is next to the same right now. Like if we're drafting today, they are right there neck and neck. I think, we're into those kind of areas. So when we do that with running backs, it's the same kind of thing is, okay, where in 2023, you were trading Bijan Robinson for Gibbs plus, you would easily get a first on top of Gibbs. So if you like these guys, if Junty or Johnson are, you can move back and get one of these other guys. Plus, I think, Snoog, the difference between Junty and anybody else is almost going to be 2 firsts when it comes around to time to draft. And that's kind of what it was for Bijan, too, is like we were talking 2 first difference. The next, you have Singleton. I have Singleton in the next year. You have him in this one. I also want to hit on, we have Ollie Gordon and we have Dylan Sampson here in this same area, and when I did my combined rankings before the injury yesterday, potentially that we haven't got news yet on Jonathan Brooks, but I have Jonathan Brooks in this same area as these guys. I think Singleton's above Brooks, but I think Brooks, Gordon, Sampson, all very similar in ceiling play. I threw Tracy in there because he's looked really good, but he's replaceable, right? If the Giants draft a running back, he moves.
Yeah, any one of these guys you just mentioned is better than Tracy.
Oh yeah. And I think that's really what we're going to see is we're going to see these guys take off. We're running a little bit short on time because I want to hit all these guys, but let's hit Singleton here pretty heavy. Singleton, Penn State guy, phenomenal in the bowl game, like really just kind of set himself up. He's someone that has true 3-down workhorse ability. Tell me a little bit about why you like Singleton, because I mean, what he's done, you look at it right now, and this is the tier where I call these guys weekly RB1 upside, right? I don't say he's a top 12 running back in Dynasty, but I think he'll have weekly juice where, he looked at in the bowl game, 14 touches, 148 yards and a touchdown, 37 receptions this year. Snoog led all running backs that are coming out, 5 receiving touchdowns, 6.4 yards per carry on the ground. And this is, in a Penn State offense, I think he has a lot more juice than what we've seen even at the college level.
You want to talk about a real home run hitter, Nick Singleton. The Big Ten is known for their run game, their run defenses, their tough run the ball, pound the ball down your rock, play good defense games. It's been like that for a couple of years, forever now. Nick Singleton, true freshman, 18 years old. I think he was 17 or close to that actually at the time. 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, very efficient on the ground game. Follows that up with back-to-back 700 plus rushing yard games on the ground on an offense that literally has only run game. Like they can't throw. Drew Aller's great, but they have no weapons. Like this year they were better. Drew Aller was great this year. I love Drew Aller, but Nick Singleton and then his other running back partner, Katron Allen, is an NFL talent. He's a power back. He's a good player. He's not wide open in that back row, right? He's splitting with another NFL caliber running back, and he's outshining him. Super efficient, like you said. The thing I love about his game is he's an elite athlete. He's a home run hitter, and he's great as a receiving back. One thing I look at with college running backs is like, okay, they got 20, 30 receptions, but like, how are they doing it? Is it a swing pass? Is it check down? Like Nick Singleton has he averaged 11 plus yards per reception in 2023 and 9.1 this year. He's not just getting check downs. Like he is getting wheel routes. I've seen multiple dynamic opportunities that he was given as a receiving back. And I just love the player. I think he fits great in this day's NFL, and he's got workhorse size. So he could be as high as an RB3 in this class, in my opinion.
So one thing that we do in the Patreon, and I put that up there again, patreon.com/SmashAccept, is that we like to do comps. And mine, I did the quarterbacks last year, and I had Jaden Daniels as Lamar Light, and that caught a lot of criticism. And I had Drake May as a Justin Herbert, type player with a Josh Allen Light type comp, and we did Caleb Williams is very similar to Kyler Murray, in the way that he plays the game. And then we had, like all of those guys, they went right on to where they were. I think we're going to see Penix play, which we said was a Tua Light. When we're talking about comps with these running backs, Snoog, like where do you see these guys? I mean, let's start out at Junty. What is your comp for Ashton Junty? Because I know a lot of you guys love these things, and comp doesn't mean this is who they're going to be. Some people say, I do value comps. You do a lot of, like playing style comps. We're not saying if we say Ashton Junty reminds you of Christian McCaffrey, we're not saying that is exactly what he's going to be worth, but it just gives you an idea of what those players are like.
Yeah, let's start off with Junty. He's Christian McCaffrey.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder, bro.
He's Christian McCaffrey Light, in my opinion. And honestly, that's a stylistic comp and a production comp. CMC had 2,000 rushing yards. Analytically, they stack up very similar. They were both, CMC played at Stanford. Like he didn't play at this big Power 5 stud school. Like that, I think that's the best comp you can get from production to talent level. Like that's what Junty plays like. He's great as a pure runner like CMC was, and he's a very, very good receiving back. Obviously, CMC is like damn near Hall of Fame, right? One of the best. Like, so it's hard like to say he's gonna be that, but that's like the comp for him coming out. Like he could be that. Will he? I don't know, but he could be that, and that's how you should treat him in your rookie drafts, in my opinion.
A lot of guys right now, they have that 101, right? And they're asking me, should I trade it for Josh Jacobs in a late first, or should I trade it for? Which Josh Jacobs is on fire, buy him everywhere. But the only running backs that I would even entertain doing this for right now is just Bijan and Gibbs. Like I just can't see trading this.
Unless I get Brees plus like an
I don't want that
second or
if you're
first.
If you're a contender, you don't want Brees plus. Like Brees is not going to do anything for you. You know what I mean? I think if you're buying this in straight picks, Ashton Junty's worth already a mid and a late and I was going to say a mid, a late, and a mid second. I think a mid first, a late first, and a mid second. And I think that's probably, you're not going to get him for that. That's where we're talking about is like, that's how high this value is going to be. So
also
get creative.
the 2026 class right now in the lens is probably going to go down as one of the worst classes, unless a bunch of the running backs go back into the year. Who
and that's
knows?
why
But
everyone's starting to. So I made a trade. I got Puka Nacua for George Pickens, my 27 first, and the 203, because I think Puka's just going to absolutely. But no one wants those 26 picks. To me, I'm always looking at it, Snoog, like I want the 25 first before I want the 26, and I want the 26 before I want the 27, because every single year, this is such a cyclical game. We know that pick is going to be worth something. 2 years from now is not worth the same as right now, because what I did last year with my 112, right, is I was trading it for the 112 this year plus. I was trading 112 for players that I liked. Like I ended up buying 2 years ago at the 112, I was buying Jordan Love. Like I was just using them. $1 today is worth so much more than $1 2 years from now. That's why you want things liquid. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I had to get that out there because everybody's like,
absolutely.
Well, in that trade, that guy did not want my 25 first because he thinks it's going to be 112. He did not want my 26 first. He went all the way to 2027. And I'm like, you can get those back. You can cash in on that. Now, the second guy here, Caleb Johnson. What kind of, and the next couple will have to be a little bit quicker with our comps. But Caleb Johnson is comparative to who for you?
I see so much Melvin Gordon in his tape, and this is more of a stylistic comp.
Melvin Gordon was a beast. Like a lot of people only know Melvin Gordon.
He was damn near a Heisman winner.
Yeah. Like Wisconsin, Melvin Gordon and Jonathan Taylor were just like I see that. Like I can see those type.
With Caleb Johnson, you see that Big Ten rushing style, right? He's that angle attacker. It screams Melvin Gordon all over tape. He was their whole offense at Iowa. Mm-hmm. He's a 3-down workhorse. He can catch the ball well. He's that bigger back, like 6 foot, 225 pounds. Just the way they attack angles and like make defenders miss in space, and the way Melvin Gordon ran the ball with the power as well. I see it all. Like that was the first thing I thought when I watched this. Like, who does this remind me of? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Chargers Melvin Gordon all over again. So that's what I see for Caleb Johnson, kind of stylistically.
Let's go on to Quinshon Judkins, because I have two here. I want to get yours, but I feel like one of them's a guy that we absolutely love. But I mean, who do you have Quinshon Judkins like?
I think I know who you're gonna say, but
you do.
It came
who do
to
you
mind.
Think I'm gonna say
that. Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon. Yeah,
it's Joe Mixon. Josh.
Good Jacobs. Housekeeping. No, we just did the Step Brothers thing.
Just has every trait you need. That power, that ability to just absolutely turn up when you need. Like it's that 3-down tenacious running style that can catch the ball out of the backfield. That's
on the low end, I like Kareem Hunt on the low end there.
Yeah.
Like I think. And Kareem Hunt, again, like Melvin Gordon, we're not talking about the shades of Kareem Hunt that are left over. We're talking about when he came out. Travion Henderson, who do you like?
I see a lot of Kenneth Walker in his game. Kenneth Walker more so now, because like Kenneth Walker now is like dropping his shoulder, trying to run through people, like a little bit more of that like downhill running style. But I think Travion Henderson's like that type of home run hitter, like Kenneth Walker, very elusive player.
Omarion Hampton.
People aren't going to love these comps for Omarion Hampton just because they want to hear that he's the next Todd Gurley, but it's James Conner, Zach Charbonnet plus for me. And that's coming out, right?
Like, yeah, I got you.
James Conner is like Hampton's that big back. Like he can catch the ball well. He's like a better Sharp. That's why I have Zach Charbonnet plus. And I think James Conner's a better Charbonnet. So he's that guy that can just do it all. He's going to be like a do-it-all workhorse guy. He's not going to be the best, but he's not going to be outside the top 15 to 20 to me. Like that's what he is. I don't think he has the high end traits like the guys above him, but I think he's very well rounded and he has the production to back it up.
And last one, Nick Singleton. What do you think?
This one's tough because I see so much Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb in his game, but he's so much better as a receiving back as them. And I think he's less talented as a pure runner, but he's like that Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, like you get the ball, there's a crease, see you later type of player. So it's almost like he's like a Walmart version of Breece Hall, in my opinion. But he's kind of like that Jonathan Taylor-ish mix where it's like.
You got to know Snoog is big on Nick Singleton, because what happens when Snoog gets excited, that Boston accent comes out. He's like, hey, see you later, huh? Yeah. No, that was a little bit more Italian. But when you get excited about a guy, that's awesome because your accent comes out through, because it's like,
that's how we do it.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. We don't have them to hear in Amish country. You know what I mean? All right.
Dylan Sampson, Ollie Gordon, DJ Giddens. Let's cover it and let's see you later.
Yeah. Let's keep going with that. Let's keep it moving. Let's go ahead and let's talk about Sampson first.
Yeah, love him. I think he's a guy that, dare I say, he reminded me a little bit of Tennessee Alvin Kamara, just because I don't know if it's just because he's number 6, plays at Tennessee. Yeah. He's one of those
dude. He
guys
can fly
you can't
too.
tackle. You can't tackle him. Like, he is like a spider monkey on the football field. Yeah. Like, he is bouncing off everybody. He's a guy that I don't think like is going to be like the guys we just talked about, but I think he's a guy I think he's like a Tyrone Tracy plus.
Well, yeah, you look at his size.
Yeah, he's 5'11", one of those guys.
190, but he projected to run at a 4.35. He's just
he flies.
The other thing I love to see is he's 20.2. He's done all this at 18 and 19 years old. Like, he just turned 20 years old. So I mean, that to me matters, because you look at we were talking about Tyrone Tracy. I think that dude's 24. You know, he's about to collect AARP. You know, like he's that. We don't want our running backs to come out at 23, 24.
He's very good.
He's 20.2.
The production this year, I mean, 1,400, almost 1,500 yards in the SEC, 22 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, he almost hit 20 receptions, so he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He had so many of those plays. He's a home run hitter. He has great contact balance. He's a good pure runner. He's a dynamic player. I viewed him as that. I don't think he'll be like a true workhorse at the next level, but I think he could be in that like Achane, Gibbs, like Kamara type role where it's like he's seeing 15-ish Bucky Irving type. That's the type of player style I'm getting from him a little bit. But he's also just like, he's a good runner. Yeah, he's a good runner.
He's going to blow up
good at the combine.
He's going to blow up the combine, and that's what I'm saying. Is this is someone where right now I have him one spot and combine the two classes, one spot.
He's my RB7.
Above Trey Benson. And I think Trey Benson, if James Conner wasn't there, we would have saw some of those things. Coming out, though, Trey Benson combine was beautiful. The next two guys I have slightly under Benson, but also have that where I say these are guys that are committee plus. They could be starters. They could be, you know, I have them in the same tier as, you know, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum. I think they're, because we love both of them coming out. Well, not Allen as much, but Corum for sure. But DJ Giddens and Devin Neal, I think, are guys that are going to give you, you know, RB2 upside. If they're in the right situation, they're going to be really good. You know, like I think if they're in the wrong situation, we're just going to see them like Blake Corum, where it's like, all right, we're going to have to sit and wait.
Yeah. I love that. I think we went over Ollie Gordon, but everybody knows how we feel about him. We were high on him coming in the year. Doric Walker winner. I mean, stud, big body back. He's situation dependent to me. If he ends up in Baltimore, one of those roles, he's going to be great. He almost kind of reminds me of like a Walmart Derrick Henry or like a Gus Edwards plus, right? Like, he's going to be a guy that could be a touchdown scoring machine, good talented player, can catch the ball well. Like, he's situation dependent, but he's in that RB 7-8 range for us. But DJ Giddens, you mentioned Tyrone Tracy. DJ Giddens to me is a better Tyrone Tracy. Like, that's what he is. He's a very good receiving back. The production screams all over tape. He had a pretty good freshman season behind Deuce Vaughn. Back-to-back years with over 1,000 yards. Very gifted runner. Can make you miss in a phone booth. He's one of my like more undervalued favorites in this class. And then Devin Neal's another one that's just a fun player that, again, like good in space. Like, Devin Neal reminds me of Tyjae Spears a little bit. I don't think he's as elusive as Tyjae Spears was, but there's a lot of those guys in this class that are going to be like they're the fringe day 2, early day 3 talents that are going to be like they could be a Tyrone Tracy boom or a Bucky Irving boom, or they could just be nothing. Like,
and there's other guys that we didn't even touch on. I mean, I think Jordan James is going to be a committee guy that I think
he's another one that's
he's one that I like a lot from Oregon.
He's fun. Yeah, he's fun.
And there's going to be guys that really pop up like that. And I think it's going to be an exciting class for running backs. We say this all the time. Wide receivers are going to come in there and they're going to push these last couple guys that we really talked about. I think when you're talking about Giddens, Neal, James, maybe even Gordon or Sampson, they're going to be second-round picks.
Even Cam Scatterbo. That kid's a monster. I didn't watch him much before I put up my pre-draft rankings, but he's someone that could be in that top 11 to 10 range too for us. So he's someone to keep an eye on.
And I think a lot of you guys are listening, like we're saying Hingle McCringleberry right now. You know, like we're talking about players that you just don't think exist. Dive into the tape. One thing we do all the time is we are trying to Snoog digs into who the players are. I try to assess the value. I try to compare them. And I think that's what works really well between the two of us in the Patreon is what people like is Snoog's going to tell you what the player is. I'm going to tell you what the player is worth. When you combine the two and you put them together, you are going to be in an area where, honestly, if you look at what our hit rates were on rookies last year, we were at a spot where we were telling you to take Bowers over Odunze. We were telling you to take, Snoog was much higher up and telling you to take May. I was big on Daniels. He was big on Neighbors. When you combine the two of us together, our hit rate last year was phenomenal. Right now, we had it as Williams right after the draft. Williams 1, Harrison 2, Neighbors 3, Daniels 4. Not a lot of people had Harrison up there. Bowers 5, Odunze 6 in that same tier as May. McCarthy right after that. Then we had Brian Thomas Jr., McConkey, Worthy, all in the same tier, and then Nix right outside. And I think Nix was the one where I wish I had more shares of Bo Nix, but we were out here. The biggest thing that we do to put you in position is not just tell you who the players are, because everybody does that. It's tell you how to win based off those players. Because like I said, there was in Smash Accept 12, I had the 102. That guy, 101 took Marv. I had Caleb there. So I was like, all right, we're going to teach you how to do this. Let's trade 102 and 103. So he gave me a first and a second to move from 102 to 103. I took Neighbors. That first is now the 102. So now I'm going to get Tet McMillan and Malik Neighbors for Caleb.
That's awesome.
So we're going to teach you those kind of things. Nobody else does that, about how we go through our process. I was telling you about how few failures the two of us have. It's because of the process. It's not that we're that much more educated than every other analyst out there. It's the process that we've been going through to really show you that Dynasty is cyclical, your top 3, bottom 3, when to buy, when to sell. This is the best time to get in. It's $5 a month to get into the Patreon. Some of the comments that I've been getting, Snoog, and I want to read a few of these out loud, but this guy said, this is J Martin 7. You and Snoog have completely changed how I manage Dynasty. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even had the draft assets to make these trades that you guys do. Really love what you guys do and the way that you guys teach. People will answer questions for you everywhere. We're actually trying to teach principles that people don't know. Quizzy
and the thing
said,
that people don't understand is, before you say this, is you're not forced to keep your players. Like, that's another part of our process. That's what separates the sharps from the casuals. Rome Odunze, a guy we loved. We loved his landing spot. We loved the draft capital. Very, very well-rounded prospect. As soon as that dude was valued in that top 12 dynasty wide receiver rankings preseason, I don't own a single share of him.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to start buying him because he had a disappointing rookie season.
Yep.
I was turning him plus into AJ Brown, him plus into Nico Collins, him plus into all these guys. I was fine adding because I'm getting a stud that I know is going to be an elite wide receiver. Doesn't matter. Like, same thing with like Xavier Worthy. I loved him as a prospect coming up. He was my wide receiver 5, right ahead of Ladd, same tier, but he was my 5. I own 0 shares of him. Why? Because Rashee Rice was cheaper. Because there was so many better options than Worthy and what I think he could have been. I think he was priced very close to his ceiling already. And it was just like, just because he went to the Chiefs because he got round 1 draft capital, I own 0 shares of Xavier Worthy. So this is the type of things you can't be biased. Like, I love Brian Thomas Jr. He's valued as like a top 10 wideout right now. How many shares do I own? 0. Why? I'm turning him into Nico Collins. I'm turning him into AJ Brown. I'm turning him into players that are superstars tied to elite quarterbacks. That's how you win in Dynasty. Don't get attached. I have a lot of Alvin Kamara because he's cheap, not because I love him. If I really like the player that much and they're too much money or they're too much value, I'm just gonna sell. I don't own CJ Stroud. Why? Because he was valued over damn near Josh Allen during the preseason. It's just the type of things that you need to do, and that's how you got to navigate the space.
The other comment we have, and I love that, the only 2 guys I have 0 shares of from this class are Marvin Harrison Jr. and Xavier Worthy, because it was a matter of just trading from there. Quizzy put, I'm 4-0 since joining the Discord. Thank you, GOAT. He's like, I have a waiver wire question. Should I claim Isaac Guerrero? And the answer was yes, and he won you your week. And this is where he's like, thank you so much for these type of things. Like, guys are literally just coming in there. And the biggest thing for me, and I put out there, we do this to win the game. We do this for our return of investment. Paying $5 a month is $60 a year. If you do the yearly, it's 10% off. Guys that have done that literally are winning that back plus because they're winning multiple leagues. You're going to want to get in more leagues. You're going to want to be in the Smash leagues. We have 16 of them. I plan on doing 4 more this offseason. There'll be 20 Smash leagues. They will be the most you've ever seen trades. If you're tired of playing redraft, you're tired of playing with guys that don't make trades, this is what you want to be. I'm in one league. I'm about to leave it because there were 2 trades all year. I offered 72. I counted them up. There were 2 the entire year.
I'm in a league that I'm in a league I'm not commissioned that I was just added to. They asked me to join it to be just like a player in it. And there was a trade deadline week 12. I can tell you one thing. I'm out of that league.
We gone. Love it. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for all the support in 2024. We're here to help you dominate in 2025. So enjoy the process.